Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am your host and guide, Courtney Anderson. As always, I encourage you to go to courtneyanderson.com and share any feedback, suggestions, or ideas that you may have for shows or anything else that's on your mind. So today we have a show that is part of our Financial Fierceness series. And I love our Financial Fierceness series because it's about finance. Specifically, it's about our personal finance, and it is about being assertive and proactive and fierce, and I love it. The whole idea here is that we are in control of our money is not in control of us, and that we are, of course, as part of our bigger goal of surpassing our goals, we're going to have a strategy and a plan, and we're going to do everything that we can to understand that knowledge is power. We want to ensure that we're using credible knowledge, that it's accurate and actionable and not something that's a myth or a falsehood or inaccurate. We want to do everything we can to continue to learn. Just learn. We could learn something new. We could learn something that we'd learned before and we'd forgotten, but we need to be taking in new information because, of course, if knowledge is power, I have to keep fueling my power reserves with more knowledge. And so the idea of our finance area, on one hand, it's fantastic. The great thing about being financially fierce is that it's just numbers. And although many of the areas that certainly I provide professional services in, and many of the things that we talk about in different programs and areas, things like ethics, often things in decision making, are a bit subjective, right? So what's the answer? Well, it depends. There are many different ways to approach a challenge. There are many different potential solution sets. The beauty of finance and the beauty of math is it's not subjective. It's objective, right? 1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 2 is 4. And there's a beauty to that. There's a clean simplicity to that. There's something that we can feel safe and stable because it's math. And I love math. And that might sound odd to any of my prior math teachers because math is not an easy area for me. It's not as easy as English and writing and things like that. But it doesn't mean I don't love it and enjoy it. It just means I have to work a little bit harder. So being financially fierce is just, again, part of our big picture of surpassing our goals. And our specific show today is one that I'm interested to see what the feedback and reaction and input is. So our specific topic today is why a good job making good money will leave you poor. Why a good job making good money will leave you poor. The challenge with our financial fierceness area, which we have our series dedicated to, is that many of the times in our lives we don't stop and sit and plan, and we get into a situation where we're always reactive, right? So for example, if someone is, quote, living paycheck to paycheck, they're reactive. And what that means is I have some money, it comes in on a certain day. If I have an employment job, maybe I get paid, on the first of the month or the first and the 15th or every other week or whatever, it doesn't matter. But you get paid and then you pay some bills and then, I'm out of money. And now I have to wait until that next payday where I get a little bit more money, I pay some bills, and then I'm out of money again. And then I have to wait. And there are people who do this their entire lives. It's always like that. And so if something comes up unexpected, oh my goodness, the air conditioner broke, or I was in a car accident, I need to get my car repaired or buy a new refrigerator. They can't do that without going into debt, right? Because you don't have any more money, because you're paycheck to paycheck. So the money came in, you spent some money, you ran out of money. So there was a time period where you're just sort of not spending any money and not doing anything because you don't have any money to go out to eat or do anything that you would maybe enjoy, and then you get a little bit of money, and then you spend it and you're out of money again. And then again, the unexpected issue that comes up, you don't have that extra money to fix the air conditioner or buy a new refrigerator, so you have to borrow it. And some people use credit cards, and in really really dire circumstances, people borrow money from other people, and sometimes even go into really risky short-term high interest loans, which are sometimes even called payday loans, or advances against your paycheck. We don't want to be reactive in life. Just because what reaction is what it sounds like, right? I just wait till something happens and then I'm what? Reacting. I'm out of money. I have to get a new refrigerator. I can't pay my bill. I'm just reacting. And it's high stress and it's unnecessary. And if you stay in that cycle where you're constantly reactive, oh my goodness, now I'm out of money again. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do when something comes up unexpected? Oh my goodness. I did a program on this relatively recently, and it was talking about getting by and not getting ahead, right? That you're getting by because your paycheck comes, you pay your bills, so you're getting by paycheck to paycheck, but you're not getting ahead. And that's what this show is about. This is about why the idea of good jobs with quote good money aren't necessarily going to do anything but leave somebody in that same reactive place where you're never going to be able to quote get ahead. And so I just sort of used, maybe somewhat sensationally, the idea of it being poor, but actually not. It wasn't. It's not meant to be inaccurate. Here's the big picture. What's the purpose of money? And I mean that, really, what's the purpose? And so some people may think, well, what do you mean what's the purpose? It's, to pay my bills, or to get stuff. Okay. So it's a resource, right? And it's a resource that you're going to trade. So you're going to, trade it for goods or services. It in and of itself doesn't mean anything, right? Whether it's paper money or digital currency, it's just something that we as a society have come up with the idea. We'll trade this and we'll give it value, and then we'll trade it for goods and services. But in and of itself, like a dollar bill, or a euro, or any denomination or currency, it doesn't mean anything. It's either literally some sort of material, right, or some sort of coin. It doesn't really mean anything. We said it means something, and we ascribe it a certain amount of value, and then we go out and we market all of our goods and services based on whatever the currency is. But it in and of itself is meaningless. It's just what we give, the value we give it. So the whole idea is, what's the purpose? Well, the purpose is, I would argue, it's a resource, right? And it's another one of these areas where knowledge is power. Now, what do I want power over? Well, we want power over our environment. So I don't want to have to, potentially, for most people, I don't want to live outside among the elements with no protection, right? So it rains, I'm rained on, it's cold, I'm snowed on, it's hot, I'm out there sweating and could have a heat stroke. No, we want to potentially have some shelter, some ability to control for our own safety, temperature, and things of that nature, so we don't freeze to death or, again, burn to death in a hot and dry environment. We want to have some control over our time, right? What are we going to do with our time? And so the idea here is that, what's the purpose of money? Well, it's just a resource. It's whatever you want to do with it. Some people completely reject the entire idea of money, and there are many people who say, look, I don't even want a part of this. I'm going to go live on the land and be self-sufficient, and I'm not even going to deal with money or trade. And that many people do that, and that's absolutely an alternative. Often, though, those people do have some piece of property, though, that they can live on, build some shelter, grow their own food, have livestock, things of that nature. What's my point? Here's my point. So many times when I'm doing programs, seminars about finance, right? And we start talking about money, and people start sort of focusing on this idea that, well, if I just made more money, all my problems would be fixed, right? I just need to get a, quote, good job. And if I get a, quote, good job and I make, quote, good money, I'm fine. I'm going to be financially secure, I'm going to be well off. Some people may even use the term, rich or wealthy. And my argument is that that's absolutely inaccurate. Money is a resource. And if you don't have control of the resource and you're just reactive, then the quote good job with good income and good money is not going to do anything for you. All it's going to do is raise, for most people, especially industrialized parts of the world, and certainly in parts of the world like the United States, what tends to happen is when somebody makes more money, right? So they go out and they quote get the good job and they make good money. Now here's the really interesting part about this. It's totally subjective. So I talked about earlier how I like math because it's objective, but the perception of money's value is totally subjective. And for instance, anecdotally, so my first jobs that I had working as a part-time employee after I finished high school as a teenager, I made somewhere around, I believe, either $3.85 an hour, and then a little bit after that, the minimum wage went up, and so I believe I made $4.25 an hour. Okay, so when I'm working a job and I'm making $4.25 an hour, right? Then if I'm talking to my coworkers, which is true, this is what really happened. I did. So I'm talking to my coworkers, and I was, in my late teens, but there were many coworkers I had that were older than I was. Some were my age, and some were many years older than I was, and had been working these jobs their entire, professional career. And these were food service, retail, these types of jobs. So I'm working and I make $4.25 an hour. And I would talk to people and they would say things, along the lines of, wow, imagine if you made like, $10 an hour. Because when you're making $4 an hour, $10 an hour sounds insanely rich. It just sounds like that would solve all your problems, right? It's more than double what you're making right now. If you could get, to over 12, close to $13 an hour, you're making triple what you're making. So of course your lifestyle could potentially improve. And what I'm saying is $10 an hour US dollars is today, this is several decades later, closer to minimum wage. Minimum wage in the United States, which is the government's least amount of money that you can pay for most jobs that are not tipped, is in the $7 range. So my point is that there are people I could talk to right now that would say, wow, it's still today, $10 an hour is amazing because it's more than the minimum wage, which is true. Relatively speaking, is that enough, quote, good money to move someone from a reactive lifestyle where they're constantly rationing their resources sort of paycheck to paycheck? I would argue probably not. Especially, of course, if they have larger families and more people that they're responsible for feeding and clothing and housing. The deal with money is this. The goal is to own things that generate resources or return. It's not to be in a reactive situation where your only income is based on your quote good job with quote good money. Part of what I'm arguing is good money is relative. There are people I could talk to right now will tell me, $8 an hour is good money, and in many parts of the I'm talking in the U.S., so I'm not talking globally. Okay, there are many people in the United States who'd say to me, $10 an hour is great. There are many parts of people in the United States who'd say to me, $100 an hour. Many people who would say to me, $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour. I mean, it's all subjective, and it's all based on what people's lifestyle is and what they're used to. And so, focusing on this idea that I'm going to go get a good job and quote make good money, one, it's so poorly defined. And what we talk about all the time with surpassing our goals, you have to define the goal. And this is something that is a huge challenge when I do my mentoring services and I'm working with people one-on-one, and I'll ask them, okay, what's the goal? Oh, my goal is, to be well off, to be rich. Okay, well, what do you mean by that? Define it. What's rich to you? Is it $25,000 a year is rich to you? Is it $200,000 is rich to you? Is it $2 million? Like, you have to tell me what that means. Because quote good money is subjective, and it's all relative to who you are and what your experience is. Being rich is all relative, right? So you have to define it. The idea here about being financially fierce is we are proactive. We are not reactive. Reactive is you sit around and wait and something happens and then you're like, oh, what happened? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I got to pay my bill. I got to get my car fixed. That's reactive. Proactive is I have a plan. I understand that money is simply a resource and that my goal is to have resources that generate money independently. And that's the whole idea then about creating wealth. Wealth is about owning things. Wealth is derived, I'm going to argue even defined by owning things. Owning things. It's not based on rationed out income purely from your labor for a couple of reasons. One, if you're looking at your own income, you certainly can earn more per hour. And I'm like I said, I started off at $3.85 an hour. I actually had jobs where I made less than that because I did work as a tipped team member in a restaurant. So as a tipped member in the United States, you make much less than the minimum wage because the idea is you make the money up in tips. Okay, so let's just for the sake of argument say it was $3.85, and then in some other jobs I made $2 that were tipped. Okay, I make more than that now. But the reality is I'm one person, and so I can only work no matter how much more I can make an hour, there's only going to be the same amount of time I can work because I'm one person. I have to sleep, I have to eat, I have to go to the restroom, I have to take a shower, I have to brush my teeth. I can't increase how much time I can work because I'm still going to be in the same box because I'm one human and I can only do so much. So your goal to be proactive with your finances and get to a point of financial independence is not going to be just focusing on I need a quote good job to make quote good money. That's part of it. That's part of what you're going to do. What your goal is to own things. What kind of things do you want to own? Honestly, ideally, you need to own things to begin with that generate more money. What kind of things generate money? What kind of things can you go out and own, right? So you acquire them, you buy them. Some people inherit them. That's something that is relatively rare for the overall population. I certainly have never inherited anything, but you need to acquire ownership of something that itself goes out and just makes more money. What is that? There are all kinds of things. One is the easy issue that we're doing mini programs about in depth to try to explain a little bit more to people who are new to being financially proactive and working toward financial independence. Financial independence, of course, is you have money in it's liquid. It's liquidity, meaning you can lay your hands on it. So liquid money is what it sounds like, right? Liquid like water. It's flowing. It's moving, right? I can touch it. And it means I could access it. So you have money somewhere that if something happens, you could reach out and immediately access. And that would pay to fix a refrigerator or, deal with a car that was in an accident or, whatever happened. Okay? So where the goal is, big picture, is financial independence. Financial independence is I have ideally, eventually, no debt, right? And then I have things that I own that generate money on their independently. And then I have resources that I've continued to hold so that if I need, something happens, it's emergency, I have liquid money that I can just run right now and grab out of a easily accessible account. Meaning I don't have to go sell something or borrow against something to get the money. Like the money's just there, and if there's an emergency, boom. I also have deeper resources of money that's not as liquid, but if I needed it in an emergency, if my whole world fell apart, I could access the money. It would take me a little bit longer, right? If it's not liquid, maybe it's something I have to sell, to get the money, but it's still something of value. You want to own things that create money. What would those be? The easiest one is money itself. And this is a part of your financial fierceness plan that I really encourage you to think about. Okay. Money is just simply a resource. that we as a society agree has some arbitrary value, and then we all just sort of adhere to that, right? It's all imaginary. It itself, it doesn't, the currency doesn't mean anything. All right. In many parts of the world, not all, because in some parts of the world there are issues with this, but in many parts of the world, if I have money, right? The money itself, which of course we've already said is just basically it's it's a fiction, but we've all agreed it has value. In many parts of the world, if I have money and it's sitting somewhere like a pot of money, I want you just to imagine there's a pile of money on the floor. And many parts of the world, if money is sitting somewhere, I can take that money that's sitting, and an entity will give me extra money simply for owning that money. What? This is a very rudimentary explanation of interest, right? So the idea of interest is I own money. It's my money. It's a pile of money, right? I can take that money and not doing anything with it other than just the fact that I own it. There are institutions and entities that will go ahead and pay me interest. They will pay me simply for just owning the money, right? Interest should be your friend. Now, if you are in a situation where you're reactive with your money because you're focused on, I want a good job and I make good money, and then what tends to happen for people who are not big picture, looking at their entire financial goal, is they'll think, oh, I've got more money, right? I went from, I make $20 an hour. I'm going to go out and get a new car. I'm going to, live the life. And I saw this when I worked in retail at the mall. I worked as a car salesperson at a car dealership. I saw people all the time that were spending way too much of their income on a car payment. So they weren't buying it, but they were either renting it, what they call a lease, when you rent a car, which I've got other programs where I talk about that issue, or they would try to buy the car on credit, right? I don't have all the money today, but I'll make these little payments for a couple of years. And then interest works against you. In those instances, it works like this. Somebody says, hey, look, you want to borrow money from me, right? A bank, a credit union, whoever, even a relative. In some instances, I'll lend you $1, but you're going to have to pay me back $1 and extra money just for me giving you the money I owned. That's called interest. It works against you when you're a borrower, because you're not just taking the dollar that somebody gave you and giving it back to them. You're having to give them $1 in extra money. So now you got to go out and earn the dollar, and you got to go out and earn the extra money. Interest is not really your friend necessarily when you're on that side of it. When you're on the side, though, of the entity that's getting the interest, think about it from that side. This is the proactive part of financial fierceness. You have to change your entire way of looking at money. Interest is really your friend, because interest, not when you're the one that's the debtor, but when you're the one that's the creditor, it's your money, right? It's a pile of money on the floor. The idea of interest is you're not doing anything with it. You're just literally having some other entity pay you interest for just owning it. Over time, if you enter into a relationship called compounding interest, okay, at some point, you have $1. Somebody gives you some extra free money basically just for owning the dollar. That's interest. There's some relationships you can get into where over time you're going to get even more interest, right? So you only had $1, but then you got an extra quarter, that was interest, and then over time you got another quarter, okay? And the interest starts to compound. At some point, your $1 will be worth multiple times what it was originally, and you never did anything. You didn't go to your job, you didn't go sit in traffic, you didn't deal with your boss, you didn't go to your small business, you just owned the money. So that's just purely owning the money. Again, many parts of the world and many societies, people don't believe and don't adhere to the interest ideas, and so they have other financial structures that they utilize, okay? But in general, that's the idea. And some people argue it's unethical, right? Like, you haven't done anything. All you do is own the money. And now I'm going to give you extra money just for owning it? Yeah. Now, how much interest you get will depend on how much risk you take with your money. You can take your money and take it to many financial institutions that are government insured, and they'll give you a little bit of interest. If you put it in the savings account, things of that nature. It's not going to be the highest amount of interest because it's low risk. So you're guaranteed to get your money back, and you're getting this extra money. There's basically this free money called interest. But you're not going to get as much interest as you could if you went out and you took really high risks, right? And you went out and you invested in something where someone says, hey, I'm going to give you a huge amount of interest, but it's high risk, right? You're not guaranteed necessarily to get your dollar back. But if you do get your dollar back, you may also get this great amount of interest if my institution doesn't go out of business. That's a whole different argument that we've got other programs that we delve into. But you need to start thinking about this. You need to own things. Ideally, you want to take the money from your quote good job and you want to take it and you want to create ownership of things that will create money on their own. Part of it is just money itself. If you just save money, then you can go and get interest. Now, can you also go and take the money that you have that's sitting in a pile and say, I'm a little bit more risky. I don't want to just wait for this interest because it's not as dramatic, right? I'm not going to get as big a numbers as if I took and I bought things. So you could go buy things with your money. Now, this is a different situation. It's a little bit riskier, but that's what people do when they buy things. You can buy parts of other people's debt, right? So we just talked about earlier, ideally at some point you're going to be financially independent and you're going to be debt free, right? You can go buy somebody else's debt. And in some instances, especially if they're government entities and things of that nature, or even private sector, you can buy bonds. That's where I'm buying somebody else's debt, right? A part of it. You can also go and buy parts of companies. So you might think, hey, I don't want to go open up like a mall or open up, a fast food restaurant myself. It's a lot of work. But you could go take your money that you just own and you can go buy parts of other people's businesses. You can buy parts of other people's real estate. They have real estate investment trusts. You can go buy parts of other people's, fast food restaurants or amusement parks or movie companies or banks or whatever. Like you can buy parts of it. That's what you're doing when you invest in stock, right? You're buying a part of a company. You can buy somebody's equity, right? Something that they own. So somebody is like, hey, I have this business. I'll sell parts of it or parts of the return on my investment. And you can buy parts of it. That's what you're doing when you buy into in stocks, right? You can buy people's debt. Those, of course, are higher risk than just taking your money and having someone guarantee that you'll give your money back and or give you the extra free money, which is called interest. But there's certainly things that people do, and we have other programs that we'll delve into that in more detail. The other thing is there are other issues and entities you can purchase that historically, nothing's guaranteed, right? It's possible that you can have a dollar and the whole currency can collapse and the whole government can collapse and then the money's worthless. That happens in history. And that's way beyond anybody's control. So none of this there's no guarantee in life, but historically, in general, this is what we're trying to look at big picture. Obviously, you understand that you can take your money, your resources, and change them into other currencies. If you're concerned that some of the currency, maybe in your local region or the part of the world you're in, you feel like it's potentially unstable, you can go buy other currencies. You don't have to live there, right? So you can take whatever currency where you are and then say, I want to go buy euros. Or I want to go buy US dollars. You can do that. People do it all the time. Okay. So you can take the money itself and own that, or you can take things that either appreciate. That means I bought it for one amount today, and over time, in general, again, no guarantees, it's worth more tomorrow than it was today. And those are typically things like land, things that are fixtures to land, like buildings, homes, real estate. Of course, people would say, well, I had bought a house and then it's worth less today now than it was when I bought it. Well, yeah, it's not a guarantee. And of course, we had the huge financial crisis, 2008. But over time, big picture, just like if you buy a bit of a company or you buy a bit of some debt, will it go down? Yes. Over time, are there trends that you're going to make more money? Investing in bits of companies and in stocks and investing in bits of debt, bonds, and investing in real estate? Yes, of course. And the idea is this. You go and let's say you go out and you bought free and clear. This is one thing both of my grandmothers did. They had rental property. Now, some of it was inherited, but some of it, on their own, they believed in. And the idea is this. So let's say I go and I buy a house. Now, it's a rental home. I'm not going to live in it. Okay, and I buy it, let's just say I pay for it cash. So I buy the rental house. Let's say that the rental house, now I'm going to rent it. That's why it's called a rental house, right? I'm not going to live in it. I'm going to have it's a part of my business. I'm going to own it. I just own it. I don't live there. I live somewhere else. I own it though, and other people come and live there. The other people that come and live there are going to give me money for living there. Now, I already have paid for the house, but the money that people give me is going to be income for me. Now, I'm going to save some of that because I might need to pay, again, same type stuff, to fix a refrigerator, the air conditioner went out, whatever. But if I've planned ahead, my rental property may give me, depending on what part of the world you're in, $1,000 a month in income. If I go out and I own 10 rental houses, then I would get, these are very rough, general, broad numbers, and of course I'm not getting into the more complex math of the taxes and depreciation. Depreciation is, of course, over time, right? Appreciation, things are worth more over time. Depreciation, value of things can go down over time. I'm not getting into any of that complex. I'm just saying big picture, which is what I'm trying to get a focus on in this program. I have a rental house. Let's just say that after I pay the taxes, property taxes to the government, and I take the rent that people pay me, I pay the bills on the house, and let's say it's at this point it's just property taxes and maybe some maintenance, and I get $1,000 extra every month. If I have 10 houses like that, I'm getting $10,000 extra a month. I myself am not getting up and going to a job or dealing with my boss or any of that, or even my small business. That's just money that's being generated, right? Plus the thing itself, the house and the land are worth something. Now that's not liquid, right? Liquid is I put it in a bank account and oh my gosh, I need it. I can go to the bank and get my money out or write a check or whatever. That's liquid. These are illiquid, but that doesn't mean they don't have value. So if something horrible happens, oh my gosh, I need money and I need it quick. I'm going to sell one of my rental houses. Okay, that could take a little while, but all right. Or if my rental house, let's say my rental house is worth $100,000 and it's paid off, right? So I'm getting the $1,000 a month. These are again just numbers for illustration that comes in my pocket that I hopefully am saving the majority of, and then some of it I might spend on taking myself out to eat or something nice. The house and the land both have individual values, right? And if something really horrible happened, I could sell that and take the money and put it in my pocket, although that would stop me having the ownership and then I wouldn't be able to get the income every month. Or I could go borrow against it. Again, we don't like to do that because we're not in favor of debt, but it's an option, right? That I can borrow against the value of my property. It's collateral. I could either use it to secure another loan. I could actually get another mortgage on it, which is where I go to the bank and say, "Hey, look, lend me money on exactly this house, and if something goes wrong and I don't pay you back, you'll be able to take ownership of the house." The key to all of this is to think big picture. The job is just a means to an end. The end is financial independence and being proactive, and that is based on owning things. You have to own things. If you're just focusing on, quote, the good job and the good money and your paycheck to paycheck and you're not acquiring and owning things, that's not going to put you in a position where you're going to be financially independent. Absent, of course, winning the lottery or some unknown relative dying that's a multimillionaire and leaving you a bunch of money, which could happen at any time. Or you find somebody very wealthy and they fall in love with you and just give you money. I don't know. None of these things have happened to me, but and that, hey, some people hold out for that. But we're going to be financially fierce. I beg you to really think about this. You want to be proactive. There's a lot of things I threw out there, but the big picture is you want to own things, and you want to think bigger than just an income stream for your individual labor, because you're limited just because of how many hours there are in the day, and you're a human. So you got to take time to sleep and shower and brush your teeth and eat and everything. You can't. You're maxed out at what you can do, even though you can potentially earn more and more an hour. That's true, but you still are one unit. So if you own other stuff, your money's giving you money. Your other, investments are bringing you money. Over time, what'll happen is that money gives you free money, right? Whether it's interest or the sharing in the success, right, of the part of the business you purchased as the value went up. And then you can do all kind of things with that if you need money in an emergency. Better than that, over time, you're going to be financially independent, where you've got all these different pieces of your income and your resources that are together building up what's called your net worth. So thank you for joining me. And again, as always, you can go to CourtneyAnderson.com.